Here we are in Avery's Court in front of the new notice board that I've implemented. Keep in mind this is unofficial, but it is actually implemented in the game, and it works. It uses existing tech, and they could even just copy paste the files I've made and it would work. I'm not even joking about that. So, I've created 2 contracts, one for Goranado, one for Wagyu, and these items have an adjective called contract attached to them. And what that means is when I interact with the notice board, it will check if I have any items with this contract adjective, and if I don't, then it will tell me you don't have a contract in your inventory. You need to come back with one if you want to claim a new companion. So, yeah. When you do interact with the notice board, it will try to give you the companions. Right now I have Goranado and Wagyu set up on this. And when it does try to do that, it will check if you already have the contract in your inventory, the specific contract for that companion. And then it will check other requirements for that companion, such as for Goranado, do you have the badge, the Lord of the Apes? And then it will also check, do you have any version of Goranado already recruited? And if you do already have a version of Goranado, then we don't want to give you another version of Goranado, obviously. So, when you do interact with it, as you can see, it removes the contracts, and it gives me the companions all at once. And I now have these companions recruited just from using the notice board. And the contracts have been used, so I can't just abuse that. And if I check it again, as you can see, it gives me that warning I talked about earlier, where it checks if you already have a contract in your inventory or not. So yeah, that is how this contract system and the notice board I've come up with work. And truthfully, they don't even have to use a notice board. They don't have to do this whole system. They could do it in, a bunch of different ways. It doesn't have to be a notice board. It could be an NPC you talk to. It could be Mickey Dugan even. I just decided to use this because it require basically no art. What I did was I reskinned a bulletin board from Marleybone and made it more Skull Island themed, and it works pretty well, I'd say. If the developers did decide to implement this kind of system, what they would have to first do is they would have to come up with the contracts. They'd have to make them as items. They would have to make the notice board, and they would need to add the behavior to it, so when you interact with it, it will give you the companion and check all the proper things, which I did this in a matter of 5-10 minutes, and I don't even have their tools, so I expect that they would be able to do it much easier and faster. And after that, they would have to distribute the contracts to various loot tables from various enemies around Spiral. And they might want to also consider replacing companion drops in packs with contracts, because right now, if you get a companion from a pack, that pack companion is stuck on your character. You can't just transfer it over to another character, and I've seen a lot of complaints about this over the years. But if they replace the companion drops with these contracts, what you would be able to do is you could just not use the contract immediately on your character. Instead, you could go to your house, you could put the contracts in your shared bank, and then you could take it out on the character you want to redeem the contract on. And if you go over here and you use the contract, if your character meets the requirements, then they'll get the companion. Just like that. If the developers have any questions regarding how they would exactly implement this, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Our direct messages on Twitter, X, are always open. as an addendum, I want to say that even though this is a technically quite easy and simple addition to make, it's not just going to happen, just like that. You have to keep in mind that we, the Amoplex, whenever we do these kinds of fan projects or fan posts that suggest ideas, and we implement these ideas, we're not bound by corporate red tape. But on the other hand, the developers are. When they want to make an edition like this, they're going to have multiple meetings over this, at least in design. So they'd have to ask each other, hey, do we really want to approach this design in this particular way? How exactly are we going to execute this? And, they have to do it all in a very professional manner. They can't just immediately do it, improvise everything. No. And another thing is that they would have to ask product, hey, is this a good idea? Do you approve? Because companions are a huge selling point of the game, obviously. There are a lot of pay-to-win companions. Just going to be blatant about that. It's pay-to-win. And they have to consider, would this make them good revenue still? And my personal belief, of course, is that it would. Players would have way more farming spots to do. It would take them hours and hours to get all of these companions. And overall, you'd get more engagement for the game. And I would say that's very important right now compared to just having them log on and pay a bunch of money to get the companions and then they log off, But again, that's up to product. They'd have to decide, is this a good idea? And if they say it's a bad idea, the designers have to listen to them. But again, I hope they get the approval for this, and yeah.